Welcome to the Majestic Truth Podcast. Join us as we delve into the mysteries of the universe, explore the unexplained, and shed light on some of the most important events that have occurred and are occurring in our world today. Get ready to open your mind, expand your horizons, and discover the extraordinary. This is the Majestic Truth Podcast. And now your host, Michelle.
Welcome back, Truth Seekers, to another episode of the Majestic Truth Podcast, the show that explores the most intriguing mysteries and unexplained phenomena from our world and beyond. I'm your host, Michelle. Today, we delve into a captivating and mysterious tale, the story of the Mantell UFO incident, an event that continues to baffle experts and enthusiasts alike to this day. Now, before we kick off the show here, head on over to majestictruth.com/episode 30 to see the overview of this particular episode. So, let me give you an event summary. Our story begins on a routine yet fateful day, January 7th, 1948. Captain Thomas Mantell, a 25-year-old veteran pilot with an impressive 2,867 flight hours, much of it in combat during World War II, found himself amid an unsolvable enigma. Mantell was a decorated pilot known for his bravery and skill, having been awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross and 4 air medals. On that January afternoon, Mantell led a flight of F-51D Mustangs from Marietta Air Force Base in Georgia, up the airways towards Louisville Standiford Field. It was during this flight that Mantell and his squadron were redirected from their navigational training exercise by Godman Army Airfield's commander, Colonel Guy Hicks. The reason: numerous reports had come in of a strange object in the sky, a UFO. This wasn't just a single report. Calls flooded in from Kentucky and statewide. Witnesses described a metallic object, immense in size and bright in reflection, maneuvering in the clear skies above. Weather records from that day indicate it was partly cloudy with high-altitude clouds, calm winds, and clear visibility conditions perfect for a high-altitude chase. 2 tower personnel at Godman, Tech Sergeant Quinton Blackwell and PFC Stanley Oliver, described witnessing an object resembling an ice cream-filled cone parachute, white and round on top with a conical shape underneath. Additionally, Operations Officer Captain Gary Carter noted it as a plainly visible round, white object. At 2:45 p.m., Mantell confirmed sighting the object, describing it as a metallic entity. But this wasn't an easy chase. As Mantell pursued the UFO, he climbed to dangerously high altitudes. His fellow pilots Clements and Hammond turned back at 22,000 feet. However, Mantell continued in his fervent pursuit, despite the inherent risks. His last reports were both chilling and fascinating. Around 3:30 p.m., Mantell radioed that the object appeared metallic and of tremendous size, moving faster than his aircraft. He pressed on, aiming to climb to 25,000 feet, straining beyond the safe operational limits of his plane. Tragically, communication with Mantell ceased shortly after. By 5 p.m., fragments of his airplane were discovered in Shelby County, southeast of Louisville. The crash site was grim. Mantell's seatbelt had been shredded, and eerily, his watch had stopped at precisely 3:18 p.m. The question on everyone's mind was simple yet perplexing. What exactly had Mantell encountered? The Air Force's initial explanation suggests he might have mistaken the planet Venus for a UFO. However, meteorological records and expert opinions debunked this mundane theory. Venus would not have been visible in daylight with those weather conditions. Journalists worldwide speculated wildly. Some embraced the theory that Mantell had encountered extraterrestrial technology and was shot down by aliens. This theory carried extra weight, considering it was merely 6 months since the infamous Roswell incident, which had already ignited global curiosity and suspicion regarding UFOs and the existence of alien life. The official assessment from Air Force investigators eventually concluded that Mantell likely succumbed to oxygen deprivation, passing out as his aircraft ascended to 25,000 feet. They hypothesized that his P-51 Mustang continued to climb even further before plummeting in a high-speed nosedive. This wasn't the end of speculation, though. Many now suspect that Mantell may have been chasing a top-secret Navy Skyhook balloon. Part of Project Skyhook, a highly classified program active during that era, these balloons were used for intelligence purposes and were known to reach altitudes as high as 60,000 feet. Released from Clinton Air Force Base, these immense balloons, up to 600 feet high and 100 feet in diameter, could very well match some descriptions of what Mantell saw and pursued. However, no documentation has ever surfaced to definitively confirm this theory. So let's look at the various theories surrounding this incident. Theory number 1, the Project Skyhook theory. One of the most compelling new theories is that Captain Mantell was chasing a Navy Skyhook balloon. Project Skyhook involved large, high-altitude balloons used by the Navy for intelligence gathering. These balloons could reach altitudes up to 60,000 feet and be as large as 600 feet high and 100 feet in diameter. This theory gains plausibility given the description of the object Mantell was pursuing: metallic, large, and moving at high altitudes. However, concrete documentation proving this theory remains elusive. Theory number 2, the pilot's last communications. Some historical accounts mention that one of Captain Mantell's last garbled transmissions included a claim that he saw people sitting inside the flying object and that his airplane caught fire before it struck the ground. This, however, has not been definitively proven and remains part of the folklore surrounding the incident. Theory number 3, meteorological evidence. Investigators have debunked the initial theory that Mantell was pursuing the planet Venus. Analysis of meteorological records confirmed that Venus was not visible during the daylight conditions of that day, as it was positioned too close to the sun. This is in line with the Air Force's own investigation, which also dismissed this mundane explanation. Theory number 4, global reporting and speculation. Shortly after the incident, journalists worldwide speculated wildly, with some suggesting that Mantell was shot down by aliens. These theories were bolstered by the fact that it occurred just 6 months after the famous Roswell incident, further fueling public imagination about extraterrestrial encounters. Final Air Force conclusion. The official Air Force assessment eventually concluded that Mantell likely suffered from oxygen deprivation, hypoxia, at high altitudes, causing him to lose consciousness. The plane probably continued to climb to about 30,000 feet before going into a high-speed nosedive. So let's load up some sound clips. All right, these clips are from a Discovery Channel episode about the incident. We will link to it at majestictruth.com. This first clip sums the event up.
On January 7th, 1948, control tower operators at Godman Army Airfield in Fort Knox, Kentucky, receive a report of an unidentified flying object hovering over the base. Controllers immediately radio the Kentucky Air National Guard. Captain Thomas Mantell, who is leading a flight of 4 P-51 aircraft, is sent to investigate. Within minutes, Mantell and his wingmen close in on the mysterious object.
He reported that it was shiny, metallic, tremendous in size, reported seeing observation windows.
But then, Mantell gives an astonishing order to one of the pilots in his formation. Return to base and arm your plane with hot guns, the military term which means prepare to fire.
Hot guns. Whoa. Okay, so this next clip, you will hear Eric and Terry Mantell, Captain Thomas Mantell's grandsons, comment on the incident.
That's what I always thought was really interesting, because for me, it's almost like the smoking gun of this whole case. They knew what was going on. They knew it was a serious matter, and they just wouldn't do hot guns for no reason.
The reason he's requesting hot guns is he feels threatened, and he's a seasoned guy. He's not going to ask for that unless he needs it.
While the other plane prepares for intergalactic battle, Mantell climbs higher and higher in pursuit of the UFO.
So he chased this thing, and around 20,000 feet, they lost contact. That's where the mystery kind of starts.
Captain Mantell's plane is last seen as it hurtles to the ground, crash landing in a field in Franklin, Kentucky.
So I encourage you to head over to majestictruth.com/episode 30, where we will have this Discovery Channel episode embedded. There's a lot more to it and some eyewitness accounts to the actual crash. Definitely worth watching. Next, let's load up some newspaper articles. This first one's from the Park City Daily News, Bowling Green, Kentucky. Wednesday, April 27th, 1949, titled, "Paper Says Flying Discs, No Joke to Air Force."
A Dayton, Ohio newspaper says the only airman who ever got near a flying saucer, a Kentuckian, never lived to tell about it. The Journal Herald says it learned this from unpublished reports assembled at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The Air Force has proved after a long investigation that the flying saucers, in the Air Force's words, are no joke. The closest any airman came to the mystery discs was on January 7th, 1948, when one was sighted over Fort Knox, Kentucky. 4 fighter planes were called to intercept it, but only Captain Thomas Mantell was able to get close. He reported back to the ground by radio that he was chasing it at 360 miles an hour. A few minutes later, Mantell's plane crashed near Franklin, Kentucky, and he was killed. But before he died, he reported that the flying saucer, as the airman put it, looks metallic and of tremendous size. The Air Force has not discounted the possibility that the flying discs may be of foreign origin. However, it was unable to bring itself to believe that any other nation could have progressed so far. The studies on flying saucers have been made by intelligence teams of the Air Materiel Command at Wright-Patterson Field. The investigations are continuing. The Journal Herald says that the Air Force still is receiving an average of 12 reports a month on flying saucers. Of those received, about 60% have been written off as natural happenings, and the other 40% remains a mystery.
This next one's from the Hawaii Tribune Herald, Saturday, April 30th, 1949, titled, "Air Force Says Saucers Not a Joke, but No Cause for Alarm."
The Air Force said officially the flying saucers are not a joke. But in the same breath, the Air Force said it is convinced from nearly 2 years of careful study that there are no alarming probabilities in the mysterious aerial manifestations. On-the-spot inquiries and sober findings have shown simple explanations for many of the things people saw or thought they saw in the sky. Nevertheless, a paper prepared by the Intelligence Division of the Air Materiel Command at Wright-Patterson Field, Ohio, declares, "The saucers are not a joke. Neither are they cause for alarm to the population. Many of the incidents already have answers: meteors, balloons, falling stars, birds in flight, testing devices, etc. Some of them still end in question marks. The paper added the correct lagging of the remaining percentage is still the job of Project Saucer, of the Intelligence Division. The paper, based on the long Air Force study, reveals in detail many of the hundreds of reports of strange flying discs and other objects. It notes that directly or indirectly, 3 persons investigating flying saucers reports have died in aircraft accidents. 2 were killed in the crash of a plane carrying what was later proved to be scraps of material used in a hoax. The paper also said, "The reported performance of the discs is so superior to anything we have yet approached in this country that it is considered only an accidental discovery or a degree of novelty never before achieved could suffice to explain such devices." The investigators also considered, but dismissed, some other and even less likely possibilities, like this. Visitors from Mars dismissed because, although that planet is believed by some astronomers possibly capable of supporting life, it appears to be relatively desolate and inhospitable. Scientists, the paper says, find it hard to believe that any established race would come here, taunt its ability in mysterious ways over the years, but each time simply go away without ever establishing contact. Visits by some sort of strange extraterrestrial animals. The paper says, many of the objects described acted more like animals than anything else. But it adds, there are few reliable reports on extraterrestrial animals. The investigation of flying saucers involved checkups on 240 accounts in the United States and 30 abroad. About 30% of them have been traced to the sighting of conventional objects, such as weather or carnival balloons. Another 30% were astronomical phenomena, such as meteors. The remaining 40% apparently are the reports still remaining to be tagged. Among the reports of eyewitnesses contained in the Air Force paper was an incident over Kentucky, the report said. Tragedy struck at the flying saucer story in early 1948. In January, an unidentified object that looked like an ice cream cone topped with red was sighted over Godman Air Force Base, Fort Knox, Kentucky, by several military and civilian observers. The tower requested a flight of 4 National Guard F-51s in the vicinity to investigate the phenomenon. 3 of the planes closed in on the object and reported it to be metallic and of tremendous size. One pilot described it as round like a teardrop and at times almost fluid. The flight leader, Captain Thomas F. Mantell, contacted the Godman Tower with an initial report that the object was traveling at half his speed at 12 o'clock high, directly in front of him at his altitude. I'm closing in now to take a good look. It is directly ahead of me and still moving at about half my speed. The thing looks metallic and of tremendous size. It's going up now and forward as fast as I am. That's 360 miles per hour. Captain Mantell recorded from his F-51. I'm going up to 20,000 feet, and if I'm no closer, I'll abandon the chase. That was the last radio contact made by Mantell with the Godman Tower. Later that day, his body was found in the wreckage. 5 minutes after Mantell disappeared, the 2 remaining planes returned to Godman. A few minutes later, one resumed the search, covering territory 100 miles to the south as high at 33,000 feet, but found nothing. Subsequent investigations revealed that Mantell had probably blacked out at 20,000 feet from lack of oxygen and had died of suffocation before the crash. The mysterious object which the flyer chased was first identified as the planet Venus. However, further probings showed the elevation and readings of Venus and the object at specified time intervals did not coincide. It is still considered unidentified.
And the last articles from the Joplin Globe, Joplin, Missouri, Friday, January 9th, 1948, titled, Pilot Dies Chasing a Flying Saucer.
Several areas of Kentucky and adjoining states were excited today over reports of a flying saucer, which led to the death of one National Guard flyer and fruitless chase by several other pilots. The National Guard headquarters at Louisville said Captain Thomas Mantell, Jr., 25, was killed late Wednesday while chasing what was reported as a flying saucer near Franklin, Kentucky. The other members of the Kentucky National Guard, also assigned to the investigation of reported flying discs in the area near Fort Knox, returned to their Louisville base. 2 Hopkinsville pilots, James Garrett and William Crenshaw, said they chased a flying object which they believed to be a balloon. Astronomers at Vanderbilt University, Nashville, Tennessee, reported they saw some object in the sky Wednesday afternoon which they believed to be a balloon, but the Nashville Weather Bureau said it knew of no balloons in that vicinity. In southern Ohio, meanwhile, observers reported seeing a flaming red cone near the Army base at Wilmington. Army spokesman said they had no information on the object or its origin. Colonel Guy Hicks, commanding officer at Godman Field, adjoining Fort Knox, said he observed the flying saucer for some time. He said 3 National Guard planes were contacted by radio and instructed to investigate. We lost contact in about 20 minutes, Colonel Hicks said. 2 of the planes later called back and reported no success. Captain Mantell, an air hero during the Allied invasion of Normandy, was the 3rd pilot. His mother, Mrs. Thomas F. Mantell, Sr., said at Louisville she was informed her son flew too high in his pursuit of the object and lost consciousness. Glenn Mays, who lives near Franklin, said he saw the Mantell plane flying at an extremely high altitude shortly before it apparently exploded in the air. The plane circled 3 times like the pilot did not know where he was going, Mays said, and then started going into a dive from about 20,000 feet. About halfway down there was a terrible explosion.
So this leads us to the conclusion that despite these theories, the exact cause of Mantell's pursuit and the nature of the object he was chasing remain unresolved. There is no definitive evidence to conclusively identify the object, whether it was a Project Skyhook balloon, a secret military experiment, or something else entirely. There is a historical marker that was placed at the crash site in Franklin, Kentucky in 2001, commemorating the incident and Mantell's role. This serves as a reminder of the enduring mystery and the significance of the event in UFO history. All right, Truth Seekers, that concludes this episode of Majestic Truth. For more information on this episode about the Mantell UFO incident of 1948, visit majestictruth.com/episode 30. I hope you've enjoyed exploring the depths of the unknown with us today. Remember, the pursuit of truth and the quest for knowledge are ongoing journeys. So stay curious, stay open-minded, always follow your dreams, and keep seeking answers. And if you have your own theories or stories to share about UFOs and other conspiracies, reach out to us on social media or email us at truth@majestictruth.com. Don't forget to mark your calendars and set your alarms because our next episode will be available in 2 weeks on your favorite podcast app. Trust us, you won't want to miss it. Until then, keep your eyes on the skies, your mind open, and remember, the truth is out there.
For updates, behind-the-scenes content, and a chance to engage with fellow truth seekers, stay connected with us on social media. Find us on Twitter at TruthSeekerPod, Instagram at Majestic Truth Seekers, and TikTok at Majestic Truth Seekers. Thanks for listening.